really had this goal or this dream to be the first carbon wheel to finish the major classics. And we were the first carbon wheel to finish at Flanders, Ghent-Wevelgem, but no one would touch the product at Roubaix. And the guys kept saying, oh no, it's, it's special bikes, it's special bars, a special stem, special posts. We need these special wheels. And I think the engineer in me looked at that and said, okay, your special wheels are 30-year-old technology. We can make a carbon wheel that will do this. So we scheduled this test in the Arenberg Forest with CSC, and we send the engineering team led by Michael Hall, and we send them with, I think, 6 or 8 different concepts of rim layup.
I traveled to Belgium with our master wheel builder, Nick James, and it was actually quite a rude awakening because we basically left the hotel early one morning. It was kind of foggy, like you would expect at Roubaix, and we drove to the Arenberg Forest. We were going to do several sets of cobbles that day because they wanted to try it out on different sections because the different sections have different types of cobbles. So basically we went to the Arenberg Forest, had 6 or 7 different riders with us, mounted everything up on their bikes, and within like 5 minutes, all of our months of preparation was basically destroyed. So at that point we were like, whoa, this is pretty serious stuff.
The team came back from that test, and we built a cobble-shaped impactor for our test rig. We built some bigger bumps for our bump drum to simulate cobble impact that we could actually repeatably bottom the tire out over and over and over again on a loaded wheel as it ran on an impact drum. And we really started to update the test lab in ways that we could test for cobble-type conditions.
Obviously, we can't really replicate the complete forest of Arenberg on the drum, but now we're to the point where, with the amount of control we have with the system, we're able to confidently replicate the conditions that the riders will encounter there. So not only do we have a variety of impacting objects that we can use with the drum tester, but with our system here, we can also control the amount of damping effectively on the system. We can apply a downward load as well as kind of replicate the damping that you have just from a rider kind of absorbing the impact.
The next big step really was bringing high-speed cameras in and really trying to get a grasp of what was going on in that impact. And you get this kind of cool effect where the tire actually, as it's impacted, wraps up around the brake track and kind of slaps the brake track of the rim and then expands back down. The rim is really taking a tremendous amount of force over this tiny little rim edge. We went on 2 tracks. One part of the team went to developing a layup that was super durable and impact resistance but didn't add stiffness to the system. And then another team went towards trying to determine a geometry that would, one, provide some vertical compliance within the rim, but also eliminate this pinch flat risk. Saxo Bank, or CSC now, Saxo Bank, would not commit to ride the product, and they still were non-believers in carbon wheels at Roubaix. So we were with Garmin at the time, and they had a contender in Magnus Backstedt. So we went over again for testing with them. Actually had a really positive test with those guys. 2 days on the cobbles, no failures, no issues. Paris-Roubaix came, and Magnus Backstedt basically double pinch flatted and cracked both rims in the Arenberg Forest in a massive impact. Fortunately, it wasn't just us. It took a number of other riders and their wheels and tires out of the race as well. But being the one person trying the carbon wheels, it really felt like we got a lot of the bad press. I think a couple of magazines had really called out that carbon wheels at Roubaix, just bad idea, bad execution of technology. And so in a way, I think it kind of re-energized the focus of saying, okay, we went from breaking rims in an hour at the Arenberg Forest to having 8 out of 9 riders with Team Garmin finish Roubaix. We became the first ever carbon wheel to finish at Roubaix with Mescanant in 4th place. So we were 1 shy of a podium. A lot of good came out of that, but of course, the reality of looking bad for a few months was tough for everybody to swallow. So started really pushing towards the technology that ultimately became Carbon Bridge.
So what we ended up with was developing this kind of tapered wall technology. So this is what we call a bridge because it basically forms the bridge of the OD. But we basically have staggered thickness as it comes down. And that staggered thickness allows the rim, when you make an impact, to basically deflect more as it goes down the sidewalls. One of the key components of the Carbon Bridge is we've actually added like Kevlar stitching up in the corners. And that basically, right there at that impact zone is where, that's where your peak loads are. So basically by putting this Kevlar band, this stitched band in there, we basically are able to transmit that load more efficiently throughout the rim shape.
But the end result was a significant improvement in impact strength, somewhere on the order of 80 to 100%, so almost a doubling of impact strength. And the only weight that was added to the layup was the Kevlar thread that's actually sewing it together. It's about 6 grams. We've made huge advancements in that rim perimeter edge. For the pinch flat situation, we found a way to really gently radius so that the tire casing would lay down progressively and spread that energy and load over a larger area.
What you'll see, we've done a lot of high-speed work. What you'll see is actually that tire will deflect down to actually a shape that looks more like this. So that's what the impacted tubular tire sort of looks like.
And when you look at the impact graphs of the wheels, it's pretty cool that what was a sharp spike in the graph of an impact, the impact force is now spread out in a little plateau. We've spread the impact out over just a couple of extra milliseconds, but it's enough to keep the pressure, the point pressure, from going high enough to flat the tire. And it really worked in our favor that the guys working on the aerodynamics and the guys working on the impact structure were the same guys. So you had, really the 2 different teams, but were really run by the same person, Michael, kind of developing that at the same time. So we were walking, all of the aero paths we were walking down were really structurally sound, really beautiful shapes.
You also notice we've started making the ID much wider. I mean, a lot of those guys continue to develop the really tight V rims, and what we're finding aerodynamically, that you actually want more of a gentle radius as it leads in, and as well as where it meets the tire. So if you look at the rim shape in the other direction, because a wheel is spinning, you end up, this radius not only helps you with puncture resistance, but if you're looking at wind as it comes around, so if you can keep the air attached around the tire, this smooth radius also allows it to stay attached. You don't get like a hard, sharp transition here and basically lose attachment of the air.
At the end of the day, we launched the new 303 shape about a week before Het Folk, and we took a win with Thor Hushoff first weekend. He continued to ride that same wheel set all the way, really all the way to the tour. I mean, it was one of the first, from a pro team perspective, one of the first products we'd ever sent them, which they immediately fell in love with and didn't want us to change. We ended up with about 28 prototypes in the field, 0 failures, and we had those rims finish literally everywhere, every race, and we made the podium 3rd place at Paris-Roubaix that year. So, becoming the first carbon wheel to finish at Roubaix, the first carbon wheel to podium at Roubaix, we were now left, I think, really having proven to everyone and ourselves that we could do this. This was legitimate technology. Now we just had to get the win, or hope we could get the win.
This is what we're after. We've got to make a rim to win here. We've got to be, it's important for Zipp to be on the podium at Roubaix. Because, We've had carbon rims in the Peloton for quite some time, but this is one place that nobody has conquered.
We officially launched the product later that spring. Just really excited. I mean, it was 2 years of really pain and suffering, and I think getting kicked a couple of times when we were down, and to really persevere through that, and really have the team here was just amazing to pull together the work that everybody did. It was just phenomenal. And so coming into the tour, a lot of excitement as always around tour season, and Haussler ends up then taking a stage victory for us in one of the steepest, longest, nastiest, rainiest mountain stages of the tour that year on the 303. And I think it really, for us, kind of, galvanized the picture, the overall view of that product, that, we had really focused on making it the most aerodynamic, classics, spring classics sort of hard man's wheel. But at the same time, you had this incredibly aerodynamic wheel. It's testing in the wind tunnel out with 75 and 80 millimeter, V-shaped rims. It's faster than most time trial wheels, but it still only weighs about 1,170 grams. So, guys like Haussler looking at it and saying, oh, it's the perfect climbing wheel. And Tor was telling us it's the perfect sprinting classics wheel. And, some of our triathletes, are coming back and saying, oh, it's the perfect, short course and medium course triathlon wheel. And we came into the Spring Classics again with just some really strong performances, and then had this magical, kind of unexplainable week that started with Fabian taking the win at Flanders. And to actually talk with him, talk with the team, hear what they have to say, and I think it's the product is so good and so trusted that it's kind of in their heads. To have Fabian say, I feel like I'm riding time trial wheels, and everyone else is on the wheels of Eddie Merckx.
I think when I did this descent after the Muur, then I hear from the car, hey, you have 10 seconds. I said, now it's time to go, because I did the same in the training. I started there to go in time trial position, and then downhill, and then the Bosberg, and I was looking at television yesterday, and then the funny was like, Bonen, they showed Bonen still, but then the camera, like the fixed camera, was searching me, but they couldn't find me. They go from Bonen, they looked at the normal road, they're following the road, but they couldn't find me. But they found me, but already far away, and they the Combinator was like, hell yeah. Now the red hammer is gone.
He went essentially mano a mano with Boonen, and he knew he was on a wheel set that was, something like almost a pound lighter, with significantly improved aerodynamics. And then the next weekend we hit it again at Roubaix, and I think that one was by now over 3 years of concerted effort and refinement and development, and long hours and pain and suffering, and to actually achieve what we set out to achieve those years before was just pretty unbelievable, and pretty fulfilling.
I'd like to believe that, all this technology, he wouldn't have been able to pull away without all the technology that we gave him.
But then to actually hear them talk about looking at the power data and going out the week before, and they found about they're telling us a 22 to 26 watt advantage of 303s over the box section aluminum wheel, in those final 40, 50 kilometers of racing. And looking at that with the basically for race strategy, and saying, okay, if you're on the 303, we think he can go solo at 40K, and if he's on the aluminum wheel, we think he can go solo at 20K. From a caloric expenditure perspective, just a sheer speed on the ground perspective, those numbers are real and meaningful, and to see that come full circle, that we've moved away from this area of talking about, choosing product because that's what was always chosen, or doing things a certain way because that's how they'd always been done, and kind of moving more into a sort of an auto racing mentality of, making decisions based on data, making decisions based on testing, making decisions based on strategic planning, using mathematical tools. Those are all things I think we've really played, more than anyone, a role of bringing into cycling and teaching the team, not just giving the teams technology, but then teaching them how to use it, how to leverage that technology to their advantage. And to see us finally beginning to achieve that has just been really fulfilling.